The morning sun painted the Tunisian desert in shades of gold and shadow on the 12th of October 1942 as Sergeant Mike Harrison of the US 1st Infantry Division approached the abandoned German position outside Gafsa. The Afrika Korps had withdrawn during the night, leaving behind the familiar debris of war, empty ammunition crates, discarded equipment, and the acrid smell of cordite that still clung to the morning air. "Sarge, you need to see this," called Private Danny Rodriguez from a sandbagged emplacement overlooking the valley approach. Harrison made his way over, his boots crunching on a carpet of spent brass casings that gleamed like golden confetti. What he found made him stop short. Mounted on its tripod, still pointed toward the American advance route, sat a weapon unlike anything in the U.S. Army's arsenal. The machine gun was sleek, almost elegant in its deadly simplicity. Its perforated barrel shroud gave it an industrial, purposeful appearance. The receiver was squared off, made from what appeared to be stamped metal rather than the carefully machined parts Harrison knew from the Browning machine guns. "What the hell is that thing?" Rodriguez asked, running his hand along the weapon's receiver. Harrison had heard rumours from British Forces stories of a new German machine gun with an impossible rate of fire, something that sounded like ripping canvas when it fired. The Tommies called it Hitler's buzzsaw for the distinctive sound it made, not the measured tuck-tuck-tuck of a Browning, but a continuous brrrrrrp that seemed to fill the air with lead. Captain James Webber arrived within the hour with a technical intelligence team. As the weapons specialist examined the captured gun, Webber could barely contain his excitement. The data plate on the receiver read MG-42 along with manufacturing stamps indicating production just 3 months earlier. "This is it," Webber said, carefully photographing the weapon from every angle. "Look at this construction. It's mostly stamped parts. They're making these things like automotive parts, not precision weapons." The team documented everything: the quick change barrel mechanism that allowed a trained crew to swap out an overheated barrel in less than 10 seconds, the simplified bolt design, the way the entire weapon could be field stripped without tools. They counted 6 spare barrels, measured the bore, weighed each component. "Rate of fire?" Harrison asked. "The British reports say 1,200 rounds per minute, maybe more," Webber replied. "Twice what our Brownings can do." What none of them could know, standing in that dusty position in Tunisia, was that this single captured weapon would spawn the most ambitious copying program in American military history. Within 24 months, American factories would build over 400,000 copies of Hitler's buzzsaw. The MG-42 was carefully crated and shipped to Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. The journey took 3 weeks. The revolution it would trigger would reshape American infantry tactics and manufacturing capabilities for generations. But first came American arrogance. The captured MG-42 arrived at Aberdeen on the 3rd of November 1942. Colonel Franklin Pierce, a career ordnance officer who had spent 15 years perfecting American small arms doctrine, examined the German weapon with barely concealed disdain. "Stamped steel," he muttered to Major Robert Collins. "Like a cheap automobile part. The Germans must be getting desperate if they're resorting to this kind of manufacturing." The first test firing took place that afternoon. The sound that erupted made everyone on the range stop. It wasn't the familiar hammering of a Browning, but indeed like tearing fabric, a continuous ripping that sent bullets downrange in an almost solid stream. The entire 200-round belt was consumed in less than 10 seconds. Pierce checked his stopwatch and frowned. 1,350 rounds per minute, wastefully fast. At that rate, a squad would burn through its entire basic ammunition load in minutes. The official report submitted the 8th of November 1942 was damning. The German MG-42 represents an unnecessarily complex approach to automatic weapons design. Its stamped steel construction sacrifices durability for economy. The excessive rate of fire would create insurmountable logistics challenges. This weapon offers no significant advantages over the M1919 Browning. Pierce called a meeting of senior staff on November 10. "Gentlemen, I want to assure you that our analysis shows these concerns about the German weapon to be unfounded. The Browning has served America faithfully since 1919. Its rate of 400 to 600 rounds per minute is fast enough to be effective, slow enough to be sustainable. Our Browning costs $500, Pierce continued. But it's built to last. Why copy an inferior design when we already have the best? The meeting concluded with unanimous agreement. The MG-42 offered no advantages worth pursuing. The weapon was created and sent to storage as a technical intelligence curiosity. This dismissal would last exactly until the first major engagement. What the Americans had dismissed as crude manufacturing was actually revolutionary engineering. The MG-42's development began in 1940 when Dr. Werner Gruner at Mauserwerke faced an impossible challenge. Create a machine gun that could be produced faster, cheaper, and in greater quantities than the excellent but complex MG-34. The breakthrough came from Ernst Gronow, a metal stamping specialist from the automotive industry. Instead of machining the receiver from solid steel requiring skilled workers and expensive equipment, why not stamp it from sheet metal? By late 1940, the first prototypes achieved something remarkable. A cyclic rate between 1,200 and 1,500 rounds per minute, so fast that individual shots were indistinguishable. The production statistics were even more impressive. The MG-34 required 150 man-hours and cost 2,000 Reichsmarks. The MG-42 needed just 75 man-hours and cost only 250 Reichsmarks. It weighed just 25 pounds lighter than most contemporary machine guns despite superior firepower. The true genius lay in production innovation. The Wehrmacht contracted not just arms manufacturers but companies that had never made weapons. Johannes Grossfuss AG, previously manufacturing metal lanterns, became a primary producer. Even toy manufacturers joined the production network, their metal stamping equipment repurposed for war. The MG-42 fired the standard 7.9 2x 57mm Mauser cartridge with an effective range of 2,000 meters. But it was the psychological effect that mattered most. Wehrmacht training documents instructed gunners to fire longer bursts than necessary when facing green troops, knowing the demoralizing sound was worth extra ammunition. The quick-change barrel system was ingenious. Flip open the receiver's right side, pull the hot barrel out with an asbestos pad, slide in a fresh barrel, 6 to 10 seconds with practice. Gun crews carried 3 spare barrels, allowing essentially continuous fire. By mid-1942, production reached 3,000 units monthly. Wehrmacht doctrine evolved around the MG. 42 infantry squads, reorganized with riflemen, primarily protecting and supplying the machine gun team. One German manual stated, "The MG-42 is not merely a weapon, it is the focal point around which all infantry tactics revolve." The 19th of February, 1943, dawned cold and misty in the Kasserine Pass. Lieutenant Colonel John Waters stood in his command half-track, studying the 2-mile-wide gap in Tunisia's dorsal mountains. His task force had confidence in their positions. M1919 Brownings emplaced with interlocking fields of fire, ammunition cached, everything by the book. At 0630, German reconnaissance appeared. By 0700, the valley filled with German vehicles and infantry. Waters was about to order fire when he heard it, a sound unlike anything in his combat experience. From the German positions came what seemed like massive canvas being torn, amplified 100-fold. The ridgeline where his infantry was positioned erupted in clouds of dust and rock. The concentrated fire was so intense it seemed like a solid wall of bullets traversing American positions. His radio exploded, with panicked reports. "Baker Company taking heavy MG fire, can't even lift our heads. Enemy machine guns have us completely pinned. We count at least 12 MGs engaging, repeat. 12 MGs. Private First Class Tommy Morrison hugged the bottom of his foxhole as dirt rained down. He'd been trained that German machine guns could be suppressed with accurate rifle fire. This was nothing like training. "Morrison, get that BAR up and return fire," his sergeant shouted. Morrison tried to rise, but the instant his helmet appeared, a burst drove him down. The sound was terrifying, not the measured tack-tack-tack he'd trained against, but a continuous BRRP that never ended. Waters watched his defensive line crumble. Not from casualties, though, they were mounting, but from sheer psychological paralysis. Soldiers who'd never experienced combat were frozen by the sound and fury of the MG-42 seconds. Even veterans had faced nothing like this. By noon, Waters ordered withdrawal. As units pulled back, German MG-42 seconds continued relentless fire, turning orderly withdrawal into near rout. That night, soldiers tried describing what they'd experienced. Corporal David Park told replacements, "You know how a Browning goes dat 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 dat? You can hear each bullet." This thing, it's like ripping giant canvas, so loud it gets inside your head. Staff Sergeant Robert Holland was technical with debriefers. At 600 rounds per minute, our Brownings fire 10 bullets per second. You can move between bursts. These German guns fire 25 rounds per second. There's no gap. It's continuous. Medical personnel reported a new phenomenon: soldiers with no wounds but severe combat stress after sustained MG-42 exposure. Captain Paul Martinez noted, "Men under MG-42 fire for extended periods show symptoms like artillery bombardment, casualties trembling, incoherent speech, 1,000-yard stare." The cables to Washington painted a picture of tactical shock. From Major General Lloyd Fredendall, enemy automatic weapons superiority critical, new German MG creating casualty rates beyond tactical planning, request immediate review. Captain William Rogers wrote, "One German MG-42 worth a platoon of our Brownings. We cannot advance against these weapons using current tactics." Brigadier General Paul Robinette's report was sobering. "One MG-42 held my battalion for 3 hours. When we took the position, we found a single gun, 2 men, and less than 1,000 rounds expended. That one gun caused 43 casualties and prevented 600 men from advancing." Lieutenant General George Patton's cable to Chief of Staff George Marshall was blunt. "Germans have machine gun that makes ours look like pop guns. Men cannot advance, must have equal weapon or accept defeat. Every day we delay costs American lives." Within 48 hours, the dismissive Aberdeen report was marked "for immediate review." Colonel Pierce received a terse cable: "Re-evaluate German MG-42 immediately. Initiate copying program if feasible. Highest priority. Lives depend on speed." Pierce read it twice, his face flushing, not with anger, but shame. He'd been catastrophically wrong, and Americans had paid in blood. "Get that German gun out of storage," Pierce ordered. "We're going to figure out how to build these things, and we're going to do it fast." On the 24th of February 1943, just 5 days after Kasserine, Colonel Pierce stood in Testing Bay 3 at Aberdeen, watching technicians carefully remove the MG-42 from storage. The weapon still bore cosmoline from 3 months earlier, when he declared it inferior. "Gentlemen," Pierce addressed his assembled team, "what happened at Kasserine was partly my fault. That mistake cost lives. We will understand every rivet, every spring, every dimension of this gun, and we will build our own version, better if possible, identical if necessary." Pierce assembled the best minds from Springfield Armory, Colt, Remington, Winchester. From private industry came specialists from General Motors, Ford, Chrysler. Most importantly, he recruited Stanley Morrison from Saginaw Steering Gear Division, who'd revolutionized stamped metal production. Morrison examined the MG-42's receiver with recognition. "This is automotive thinking applied to weapons. These stampings could be made on equipment we use for car door panels." For 72 hours, the team worked around the clock. Every component was photographed, measured, analysed. The elegance of the design simplicity was impressive. Every part had purpose. Most served multiple purposes. The recoil booster doubled as barrel bearing. The feed tray cover mounted the anti-aircraft sight. The roller-locked bolt system was genius, simple rollers that cammed outward into receiver recesses. Strong, reliable, manufacturable on basic equipment. How did they make this so cheaply? Morrison provided the answer: they didn't make it in one place. Look at these proof marks, distributed production. Any factory with stamping capability could make parts. Pierce called General Morton at the Pentagon. "We can copy this weapon, but it requires complete rethinking of small arms manufacturing. We need to retool factories, train workers, develop stamping infrastructure." "How long?" Morton asked. "Prototypes in 2 months, mass production in 6, if we mobilise immediately. You have whatever you need. Unlimited priority." The team made a crucial decision: adapt the design for American 30-06 Springfield ammunition rather than German 7.92mm Mauser. This required recalculating everything but would simplify logistics. The American version was designated T-24. By the 2nd of April 1943, the first T-24 prototype was ready. Pierce personally manned the gun for the first test. The burst shattered the morning quiet with that distinctive ripping sound, not quite identical to the German original, slightly deeper due to the heavier American cartridge, but unmistakably the same weapon type. Rate of fire: 1,180 rounds per minute. It works, Pierce said, hands trembling with relief. Now we build thousands. On the 15th of May 1943, General Morton convened America's manufacturing titans at the Pentagon. We need 400,000 units by end of 1944. That's more machine guns than America has produced in its entire history. Contract awards were swift. Saginaw Steering Gear Division received the prime contract for 150,000 units. Buffalo Arms Corporation was awarded 100,000. Rock Island Arsenal would produce 50,000, while troubleshooting problems. Multiple subcontractors joined. Guide Lamp would produce barrels, Frigidaire bolt assemblies, Hudson Motor Car Company trigger groups. Morrison established a production control centre resembling a military command post. Wall-size charts tracked every component from raw steel to finished weapon. The first 100 units in September 1943 were hand-fitted, each fired with 10,000 rounds to ensure reliability. These went immediately to Italy, where the Fifth Army was preparing for assault on the Winter Line. Feedback was immediate and enthusiastic. T-24 performance exceeds expectations. German MG-42 finally matched. By December 1943, production reached 1,000 monthly. Saginaw refined their process to art. Workers who'd built steering columns 6 months earlier now produced T-24 components with remarkable efficiency. Rosa Martinez, a former seamstress, revolutionized the welding line. You're moving parts too much. In a dress factory, work flows to the worker. Her reorganization reduced assembly time 20% and improved quality. By March 1944, combined output reached 10,000 monthly. The supply chain became a marvel of coordination. Steel arrived precisely when needed, completed parts moved by dedicated trains. Finished weapons were tested, crated, shipped within 48 hours. November 1944 saw the peak 52,000 units that month alone. More T-24S produced in 1 month than Germany produced, MG-42 seconds in their first year. Factories operated 24/7 inches, 3 shifts. Saginaw's Plant 2 produced 18,000 receivers that November, 1 every 90 seconds. The human dimension was captured in letters home. Mary Patterson wrote her son in Italy, "Dear Johnny, I helped build 150 machine guns today. I hope one of them keeps you safe." Final statistics. 400,000 plus units produced. Cost: $141 versus $500 for Browning versus 250 Reichsmarks for German original. American improvements included chrome-lined barrels, triple the barrel life, improved feed mechanism, 90% reduction in stoppages, simplified parts interchange. The first 100 T-24S reached Naples on the 23rd of September 1943. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Thompson distributed them to experienced crews who'd faced MG-42 seconds. Staff Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez, a Kasserine survivor, received one of the first. 6 months ago, I watched my squad get pinned by one of these, he said, running hands over the T-24. Now we've got our own. The 13th of October 1943, assault on the Barbara Line, the baptism of fire. When German MG-42 seconds opened with their ripping sound, American T-24S answered immediately. For the first time, Americans achieved fire superiority at squad level. I saw the German gunner's head pop up when our T-24 opened fire, recalled Private William Brown. You could see his shock. After a minute, he stopped firing and displaced. We'd never forced them to move before. By January, 1944's Monte Cassino assault, over 500 T-24S were deployed. The preparatory barrage included dozens of T-24S firing continuously, their merged sound suppressing German positions. D-Day. The 6th of June 1944, every invasion company had at least 4 T-24S. On Omaha Beach, T-24 teams at the seawall provided suppressive fire, allowing following waves to advance. Sergeant Raymond Cooper's team destroyed 3 German MG-42 positions. When we got our T-24 operational, we could give as good as we got. That sound was no longer just theirs. The Pacific Theatre demanded T-24S after hearing European reports. During Saipan's 7th of July 1944 Banzai charge, 3,000 Japanese soldiers, Marine T-24 teams fired continuously for 30 minutes, stopping the assault cold. Lieutenant General Patton summarized, "The T-24 revolutionized American infantry combat. We're not just matching them, we're overwhelming them with superior numbers of equivalent weapons." October 1943, first German intelligence reports about T-24 production reached Berlin. Initially dismissed as propaganda, the numbers seemed impossible. December 1943, confirmation came when Germans captured an American supply convoy near San Pietro, finding 3 T-24S. Serial numbers 18,234, 18,235, 18,236, suggesting at least 18,000 already produced. Wehrmacht weapons experts were stunned. Chrome-lined barrels, improved feed mechanism, superior metallurgy improvements Germany had considered but couldn't implement. January 1944, the Gustav Line Hauptmann Erich Richter's battalion faced mass T-24. Our MG-42 seconds performed as expected. Then Americans answered with weapons sounding like our own. Every burst we fired, 3 came back. We were being outgunned with our own design. Post-war interrogations revealed the full German shock. When we learned Americans produced 400,000 copies, we knew the war was lost. It wasn't just the number, it was what it represented. American industry exceeded our techniques by factors we couldn't comprehend. Dr. Werner Gruner, the MG-42's designer, examined captured T-24. "You improved our design. Chrome-lined barrels, we knew this would help, but lacked capacity. You took our concept and perfected it." Albert Speer, at Nuremberg, the T-24 demonstrated our position's futility. We innovated stamped weapons from necessity, producing MG-42 seconds for 250 Reichsmarks. Americans produced better copies for less, at rates dwarfing our best efforts. The T-24's legacy shaped American weapons development for generations. The M60 machine gun, entering service in 1957, was essentially the MG-42's grandchild. Modern M-240S trace lineage directly to T-24 lessons. Production methods pioneered for the T-24, distributed manufacturing, stamped construction, rapid scalability became standard American defense industry practice. The copy and improve doctrine became official policy. Standing in Fort Benning's Infantry Museum today, Master Sergeant Jennifer Walsh shows officer candidates the original captured MG-42 beside the first production T-24. This German gun taught America humility. This American copy proved we learned the lesson. From one captured weapon to 400,000 copies in 24 months. From dismissal to desperate copying to industrial dominance, the Germans invented the buzzsaw. America built 400,000 of them. The final arithmetic of victory. 1,200 rounds per minute of democratically manufactured firepower. 75 German man-hours versus 8 American man-hours at peak efficiency. 50,000 units monthly at maximum output. The Americans didn't just copy the MG-42, they outproduced the Germans at their own game, turning Hitler's buzzsaw into democracy's sledgehammer.